If you've just watched the CCTV footage at the beginning of this video, you're probably still feeling the chills. A truck suddenly backs up, smashing the entire storefront in broad daylight. The sound of shattering glass echoes across the street like an explosion. Glass cases, gold and silver shards scatter across the sidewalk. And then seconds later, one by one, people enter the frame. Not customers, but men dressed in black, holding sledgehammers, their faces uncovered. One man rushes in to smash the case. Another fills his pockets. Another stands outside the door, swinging an axe and screaming as if he's playing the lead role in some strange stage show in the middle of a crowded street. People outside film and post clips online. While inside, the robbery continues, coldly, quickly, without a word. At first glance, you might think, is this a simulation? A movie? A gangster stunt? But no, it's real. And the video you just watched is just the beginning of a case that has shocked the Birmingham community, raising many questions that are not easy to answer. What drove 5 middle-aged men to commit crimes in such a dangerous way? Why did they act professionally as if they had done this dozens of times? And how did the law track down each step in that chaotic 70-second sequence? The story you are about to hear is not just a robbery. It is a journey to unlock each layer of characters, each stolen car, each fingerprint, and even the statements that float between truth and lies. Welcome to the documentary about the most reckless criminals in Birmingham history, and remember to like and subscribe to the channel to support us with a cup of morning coffee. Thank you. John Gourlay, the name that started the Birmingham police blacklist, is the embodiment of a dark past that has never been buried. He is no rookie, nor is he a lost cause who happens to be a criminal. With 47 previous convictions for 180 offences, Gourlay was once a notorious kingpin of cigarette truck robberies, roaming the Midlands as if the law were a blurred line painted under his wheels. In 2015, during a botched Costco heist, he recklessly threatened police with a baton, only to be subdued after being pepper-sprayed during a thrilling motorway chase. The 13-year sentence seemed to have closed a chapter of his crimes, but no. When he was released, Gourlay quietly returned with a more sophisticated trick, sneaking into a gym on Kingsbury Road, stealing the keys to a Toyota Hilux from his locker, and then using it to make an unexpected comeback with a terrifying reverse crash through the front of Daniel Jewellers. Accompanying him was Justin Boylan, a man who seemed to have shaken off his past after a decade of living as a truck driver, but then spiraled down into alcohol and the pain of a broken relationship. The gold tag found on his sofa after the robbery was the end of all excuses. Trevor Leake, the tall, taciturn man who directly drove the Hilux that nearly killed the shop owner, was also the one who was serving a suspended sentence for harassment. Arfan Latif, who was convicted of attempting to rob a gold shop in 2015, is back in his old role, standing with an axe in the middle of the street as if he had never been threatened. And finally, Hassan Zulfikar, the youngest, with the thinnest record, but caught on CCTV driving a stolen Audi TT and buying fake license plate stickers for his escape plan. None of them are strangers to the dark. None of them have made a single mistake. They are an old, fractured, out-of-sync ensemble, but when reunited they can still sow chaos in broad daylight and leave a chilling echo in the heart of the city. A piece of music doesn't start with just one note. And the Daniel Jewellers robbery couldn't have been so perfectly orchestrated, rehearsed and casted. Like a concert orchestrated behind the scenes, every move in the heist was coldly coordinated. It began with a stolen Toyota Hilux, not a random theft, but a deliberate one. Gourlay, the ringleader, had stolen the car 2 weeks earlier by stealing the keys from the victim's locker at a gym. No smashing of the windows, no alarm, just a misplaced key, then missing, and 2 weeks later used as a projectile to blow up the store. But the bullet didn't come from the front of the car, it came from the back. The Hilux was driven forward, reversed, and then reversed at high speed, hitting the storefront twice. It was no accident. The rear of the car was stronger, more controllable, and exerted such force that the entire glass panel shattered like thin ice. On the second impact, just inches from the shopkeeper's head, the glass case flew up as if it had been detonated by a silent explosion. Immediately after the impact, 3 men rushed inside, each holding a large sledgehammer, their faces uncovered, saying nothing. The first blows were decisive, violent, and precise, aimed at the display cases where the necklaces, bracelets, and gold rings were displayed. Meanwhile, one remained in the driver's seat, keeping the car running, acting as a beat-keeper. The other stood in front of the shop, swinging an axe, shouting "What?" as if to stop time. The sound of the axe sweeping through the air created an invisible boundary between the normal city and the robbery in progress. No one dared to enter, no one dared to call the police. Everything was frozen in the midday sun. The whole action took less than 70 seconds. With the bags full, the hammers done, the group retreated in the opposite direction. The Hilux was abandoned, replaced by a Toyota Corolla also stolen and with fake plates, the first vehicle of transit. The group then quickly split up, using 2 more cars, an Audi TT and a BMW 420, both registered as stolen, with fake plates purchased in advance for easy removal. These cars were not chosen randomly. They were all sports cars, capable of accelerating quickly and difficult to identify on traffic cameras when wearing fake plates. The structure of the action was divided into 5 parts: intruder, smasher, collector, driver, crowd controller. No one was redundant, no one blocked anyone, and no one stumbled. Everything was run like a machine, every step was calculated, every detail from where the car was parked, to the timing of the door slamming, to the change of vehicle, suggested that this was no gang of amateur criminals acting on impulse. This was a chain reaction, and the raid was just the final step. The robbery was silent, not because no one saw it, but because it was so fast, so unexpected, and so reckless that no one had time to react. In less than 70 seconds, the front of Daniel Jewellers was smashed. With the back of a Hilux, the glass cases flew out onto the street. 3 men with sledgehammers smashed inside, and 1 man with an axe stood outside the door, shouting, threatening anyone who came near. Some people raised their phones to record, others stood rooted to the spot, panicked. No one called the police until the car disappeared, the robbers melted into the crowd, and the storm subsided as if it had never existed. Only a few minutes later, the first calls began to come in, perhaps from store employees or from those who had just breathlessly witnessed it all. When the police arrived, the scene was still filled with the smell of burnt metal, broken glass was strewn across the floor, and the Hilux, the vehicle used in the crime, had been abandoned nearby. Not a few dozen meters away, another Toyota Corolla was abandoned, as if the robbers had no more time to hide, or simply ran out of time. But that haste revealed the first weak point. Less than 2 hours later, a man walked into a gold shop in the jewellery quarter carrying a stolen gold bracelet. He had no idea that the cameras were recording. He had no idea that the jacket he was wearing was clearly recorded on the CCTV of the robbery. And he had no idea that the fingerprints left on the receipt would become the first piece of the puzzle that would bring the whole scheme crashing down. It was John Gourlay. And the bracelet? Immediately after the sale, it had been melted down to erase the evidence. But ink, fingerprints, and camera data cannot be melted down. The robbery seemed perfect, but the mistake was never in the crash, but always in the moment the perpetrator thought he had gotten away. And from there, the investigation began to move. The investigative blood began to flow like a smouldering underground vein, slow, but precise and irreversible. From the sole fingerprint on the receipt for the ring at the gold shop in the jewellery quarter, the police identified John Gourlay, a veteran face with hundreds of convictions. And it was from that fateful moment that the investigation officially began. On March 4, 2022, just one day after the robbery, the police knocked on the door of Gourlay's house in Northfield. He appeared bewildered, but the black jacket he had worn in the CCTV footage was still hanging right behind the door. From there, the lines of investigation spread like a spider web. Using the ANPR system, vehicle number plate recognition, the police tracked the journey of the Toyota Hilux stolen from the gym in Solihull on February 27th. The camera data clearly recorded Gourlay breaking in, taking the keys from the locker and disappearing in just a few minutes. These clues eventually led investigators to the robber's retreat, where two other cars, an Audi TT and a BMW 420, had also been spotted near the scene of the robbery on 3rd March. Both were stolen, and both had fake number plates purchased online. Police traced the transaction history of the number plates and found an IP address which led to Hassan Zulfikar. He was arrested on 10 March as he drove home to Small Heath. He was still in possession of the mobile phone he had used during the escape. A search of Zulfikar's home yielded a jacket that matched CCTV footage of the Audi TT driver. On 15th of March, officers swooped on a house in the suburb of Yardley Wood and arrested Justin Boylan. In the living room, under the sofa cushions, they found a piece of jewellery tag from Daniel Jewellers, a key piece of evidence that had never been made public. The fingerprints on it matched Boylan's. Faced with this evidence, he could only bow his head, unable to explain. On March 17th, Trevor Leake, the driver of the Hilux, was arrested in a car park south of the city. Police identified him from CCTV footage of his height and distinctive gait, and witnesses accurately described his reckless behavior when he reversed into the storefront. Not stopping there, on March 20th, Arfan Latif was arrested at his home in Hall Green. During the search, police found a dusty axe, identical to the weapon he was brandishing in the video recording of the robbery. In addition, Latif's phone data revealed a series of text messages and photos of gold bracelets at the same time as the incident. Every fragment, every seemingly meaningless detail in the hands of the police all gradually came together into a clear picture. No need for a chase like in a movie, no need for guns or bullets, just logic, data, and patience. Less than 3 weeks after the robbery, the entire Black Band was arrested. A symphony that seemed to have been rehearsed perfectly, but just one wrong note, the whole orchestra collapsed. Under the cold dome of Birmingham Crown Court, 5 men, once thought to have retreated from the shadows, took the stand. None admitted to being the ringleader, but the video footage, the data, the physical evidence pieced together spoke for them. The court did not need a confession, just the truth. And the truth was, John Gourlay, with a 180-count record, was the man who broke into the Solihull gym, stole the keys to the Toyota Hilux, the vehicle used in the robbery. He was also the first to sell the gold bracelets, leaving his fingerprints and being identified within hours of the crime. The key player, the first clue, and the one who started the mistake, Gourlay, was sentenced to 16 years in prison. Arfan Latif, the man who stepped out of the Hilux, axe in hand, shouting down the street as if leading a crazy show, was also the one who had been sentenced for robbing a jewellery store in 2015. He played the role of intimidating and obstructing resistance from the outside, creating a cover for the rest of the group to act inside. the unrepentant repetition of the crime earned Latif the same sentence as Gourlay, 16 years in prison. Trevor Leake, the tall man who directly drove the Hilux into the storefront, nearly causing serious injury to the store owner, had been given a suspended sentence for another incident. But this time, recklessness was no longer forgiven. He received 14 years and 6 months in prison. Justin Boylan, who had been silent for more than a decade and was considered to have reformed, was the most obvious link in the chain of evidence. The tag of a stolen piece of jewellery found under the cushions of his sofa. There was no denying it, there was no way back. Boylan was sentenced to 14 years in prison. Finally, Hassan Zulfikar, the youngest of the group, with the least criminal record, but still involved in the escape and vehicle preparation. He was the one who ordered the fake license plate stickers, drove the Audi TT waiting for the retreat plan. Although his role was not directly dangerous, his apparent complicity earned Zulfikar a 12-year sentence. No hammer, no blood, just logic, data, and cold ruthlessness. The court ended the symphony of crimes with telling numbers: 72 years in prison for 5 people who believed they had staged the perfect magic trick. But this time, the stage was not for fugitives, it was for justice to come down. Beneath the dust of the chaotic 70 seconds, the Sparkbrook jewellery store robbery left more than broken glass and a toll. It revealed a sobering reality. The recklessness and sophistication of today's crime is no longer the product of disorganized robbers, but the result of a society where wrong turns still exist, waiting for the weak to turn back. Those who think they have escaped the old quagmire eventually know how to come back, and do it even better than before. On an ordinary street corner in the midday light, a robbery can happen after a few minutes of inattention, and when it does, the truth is that no one arrives in time to stop it. Only cameras, evidence, and investigators who follow the trail after everything has been destroyed. This case is a clear demonstration that crime does not need to speak. It just needs to be silent long enough to strike unexpectedly. But that is why the silence of justice is the most chilling. No need for dramatic chases, no need for gunshots, just a fingerprint, a receipt, and the belief that the culprit will pay sooner or later. Sparkbrook is closed, but the question remains: how many other plans are being secretly prepared somewhere around us? And when they happen, will we still be surprised? If you also want to get to the bottom of the truth, if you want each case to be more than just a news report, but a reminder to ponder, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. The next stories will have many more things that will make you shiver.